in the world of Bitcoin. I hope you're all doing well today on this bright and sunny day here in northern Israel. Quick update for you about Bitcoin. If you haven't noticed, if you haven't been paying attention, if you haven't been watching my videos for, I don't know, the last year or more, I've been telling you since before the ETFs, the Bitcoin ETFs launched, that once they launch, the supply is going to be dwindling quick. And in fact, it is in fact dwindling very quick, as I've been updating you constantly for the past year and more, but certainly the past year in an accelerated mode. You guys remember back in even I think June, I gave you guys an update on the 5-month mark, telling you that the top 9 ETF companies had already purchased more than 500,000 Bitcoins since the launch of Bitcoin ETFs in January. And don't be surprised if they buy more than 1 million, maybe as high as 1.5 million by the 1-year mark of that launch. Well, here we are in December, just a little bit more than 11 months since the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs. And indeed, it turns out the top 9 ETFs in the US for Bitcoin have purchased more than 1.2 million Bitcoins already, are rapidly approaching the 1.5 million mark. And we're seeing more huge buys, not just by MicroStrategy, but other companies too. You know, Marathon just announced, I think they bought like 40,000 or something Bitcoins. The supply is dwindling quick. There's only, maybe 700,000, 500,000 Bitcoins left really on the market right now before they'll be basically be held by wallets that aren't selling. Maybe they'll start to sell once the price goes up significantly again. But for now, it's a very small supply available. And we still see, continually big whales and financial institutions, banks, etc., and governments now buying more and more. In fact, the U.S. government, which already is the largest holder, has an incoming president, right? President-elect Trump, who has now confirmed again that he intends to establish a Bitcoin reserve and wants to accumulate as much as 1 million Bitcoin. They already have 500,000 or so, 400,000, whatever the number is. So they're already well on the way there. If they were to buy another 600,000, where would they even get them from at this point? Right? He doesn't come into office until January 20th or so, right, of 2025. By then, how many will be left in another month and 5 days? They're being devoured at a rate of about 100,000 a month or more. Well, about 150,000 a month. How many will be left on the market by late January 2025? I don't know. We'll see. But it certainly looks like the U.S. government is going to be increasing how many Bitcoins they have. And Russia has also signaled that it wants to increase its crypto holdings. And Russia is also believed to have a very significant amount of Bitcoin, much of it undeclared, but presumed to be owned by the Russian government or controlled by Putin or whatever. And apparently they're gearing up for some kind of a crypto Cold War, or at least a Bitcoin Cold War, in terms of competing for who will have the most Bitcoin at the end of it all. A new kind of arms race. So there goes the theory by so many advocates that say, oh, Bitcoin disincentivizes violence. Really? You got the two world's leading nuclear powers and military powers competing for the future of energy and value transfers. And you're going to tell me that disincentivizes violence when they're actively engaged, either directly in a war with Ukraine or indirectly in a war against Russia through proxies or through helping Ukraine, through giving Ukraine funding, whatever, which really is just mostly old equipment, obviously. These two powers are at war indirectly in multiple locations, right? In Syria, they've been at war indirectly for years. In Ukraine, they're at war indirectly since some years. There's a number of locations on Earth where the US and Russia are indirectly at war with each other. Hello there, I see your YouTube icons. So, to say that Bitcoin disincentivizes violence is ridiculous. All it is just another means of value transfer. It's a wonderful means of value transfer, better than any other one we have so far in terms of like fiat currencies or anything like that, because of the immutable ledger, portability, divisibility, uncensorability, all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean it disincentivizes anything, like violence, right? Just because somebody invents a new form of money doesn't mean that people aren't going to be people and political leaders aren't going to be political leaders. They're still going to do what they think is in their best interest. And if that means sometimes going to war, well, then they're going to go to war. Sometimes, inventing a new kind of money doesn't, and it's more than just money, right? But inventing a new kind of money, that's all it is, does not create less opportunity for. There's more population, there's more money. It creates new opportunities for violence, not less. Again, I'm not saying that to be anti-Bitcoin at all. I'm saying that to be realistic. I'm all for Bitcoin. I think it's great. But let's not pretend that it's some magic bullet that saves everything, right? You can say to me, well, Bitcoin's good for the environment. And that's an arguable point that I do believe, yes, overall, because if you have green mining and an increasing number of mining is green, then yes, it's wonderful. You're creating things of value or perceived value without adding to the carbon footprint of humanity on Earth. That's great. But that doesn't mean it's going to be able to fix your boo-boo if you cut yourself with a paper cut, or help you if you break a leg, or disincentivize violence, right? All it says is, we found a greener way of making some kind of a currency. That's wonderful, right? Because people complain about the energy use of Bitcoin. Listen, there's a lot of things that use a lot of energy in the world. Fiat currency uses a ton of energy, way more than Bitcoin does, way more. Think about how many people have to be hired to secure and to create and to manage and to move and to transfer and to administer, right, and to oversee all the different aspects of fiat currency. All those middlemen are not necessary in Bitcoin. All you have is miners and people who buy and sell and hold, right? You don't have middlemen. There are, because there are companies that invent themselves to do things like that, like Coinbase, to be a crypto exchange, right? And so they'll have executives and managers, all that kind of stuff, but they're not necessary for the functioning of Bitcoin or the Bitcoin network. You're going to give me hope? All right, give me hope. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful for a better tomorrow. No problem. I'm all about the hope, bro. Walter, hello. I see you, Walter. Yo. So, anyway, that's just to say, be cognizant of the very big reality that is the dwindling supply, the rapidly dwindling supply of Bitcoin and the heating up of the Cold War that is happening between Russia and America over the dwindling supply that remains available. And be cognizant of what that is likely to do to the returns, right? When you have a limited supply and an increasing demand, usually price goes up. This is basic law of economics, right? Supply and demand, economics 101, right? Econ 101. If you took that ever in college or high school or wherever, you would know that. And so the price is likely to chase the returns to the upside as the supply keeps dwindling and the demand keeps increasing. Now, how do I know the demand is increasing? Well, you got more and more people buying this stuff every day, or you have more and more whales buying more and more of it every day. And think about like when whoever it was, BlackRock or something, launched their iBit Bitcoin options trading, I think like last month or whatever. And what happened with that? Right, they had like record inflows. I think they had like $2 billion in a single day, which was unheard of in ETF trading or whatever, and options trading on a single asset, right? Which is a derivative asset. It's an insanely high number compared to historically what has been the case. And now you got Grayscale saying, that looks like a good way to get money. We'll do that too. So they're looking at having their own Bitcoin options trading assets to let people trade. That's because there's greater interest, there's a greater demand, not because there's less of a demand. They wouldn't be looking to create a financial vehicle, which isn't cheap for them to do, and it's not free for them to do, and there's a lot of regulation and headaches and everything else that they got to deal with to get that done. It's not just like they push a button and suddenly they can sell that. No, they have to go through regulatory bodies and get approval and sign-offs, and standards have to be met, and it's a whole bunch of a rigmarole, right? It's not a one and done, push the button dummy situation, right? So if Grayscale is going through all that now, pretty much because they've been incentivized to do that by seeing the results of how it worked out for BlackRock, that means demand is going up, right? And what have the returns been doing lately? They've been going up significantly, right? They went from like 60 grand, 49 grand back in August, and from like 60, 69, whatever the number was, on like the day before Election Day in the US, November 4th. And the day of Election Day, it started to go up, and the day after Election Day, it started shooting up and went to 100 grand within a few weeks, right? That means the demand is going up because there's a dwindling supply. The demand is clearly going up because the returns are rising. And because the returns rose very nicely. They mean reverted on some time frames, and they're set to continue to mean revert to the upside. If you've been following my recent videos about how right now Bitcoin is actually on the daily time frame mean reverting to the 3012 RMLR, which is around 118,000 and rising. It'll be up at around 125, 127 within a couple weeks, and about 130,000 a couple weeks after that, if the RMLR line stays roughly where it is. But even if it doesn't, the general direction of the RMLR line is rising from where it is now at 116, 118 grand, whatever the number is. So, yeah, it looks like the next month is going to be very telling. It looks like we could easily be at 120 grand within the next 30 days. It looks like after that, if the US and Russia are going to be in some kind of a bidding war to buy the remaining Bitcoins, it could be a very interesting 2025 for Bitcoin. And of course, that means that it's going to be a very interesting year for alts, because as more money flows into the Bitcoin market, guess where else it flows into? The rest of crypto, right? Altcoins. Litecoin, Ethereum, Solana, BNB, DOT, you name it, XRP, whatever you can think of, even meme coins like People or Pepe or whatever you can think of, Doge, Shiba. Excuse me. There's no shortage of assets in the crypto space that are going to see further significant positive returns, especially as the supply keeps dwindling on the main assets, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we're seeing Litecoin get bought up more and more by big whales, etc. So keep that in mind. Stay safe. Keep your crypto safe. Remember, not your keys, not your crypto. And don't let anybody hack your devices. Don't let your wallets get drained. Keep your seed keys offline always. Never put them online. Never even keep software that just requires a password online. If it just requires a password, you should honestly delete that software every single time you stop using it, and then reinstall it, even if it's a pain in the butt. Right? Unless you're doing many transactions a day and you have a dedicated machine that's only connected to the internet when you're doing transactions, that's fine. And that's the only thing you do. And you use a VPN and privacy protect the whole thing and whatever. Otherwise, it's very easy for people to crack into like phones. They can sniff for data. If you're walking by some place and you tap in accidentally through a public Wi-Fi or whatever, they can steal your password from like whatever app you're using, whatever wallet app you're using, MetaMask or you name it, doesn't matter. They can sniff those passwords very easily, figure out which wallet to use it in, get in, and drain your funds in a matter of seconds. So yeah, that's going to do it for now. Stay safe, happy trading, happy Bitcoining. Cheers.